Hello class, welcome to Lesson 7 of Management 300 Principles of Management. This week for learning objectives, after completing this lesson you should be able to translate the benefits teams provide into competitive advantages. Identify the different types of teams, self-managed, parallel, project, and virtual. Track the stages of team development that occur over the life of a project and help the team perform effectively. Recognize key roles that team members must play to ensure high performance. Master the skills to detect and control team performance problems. Manage team conflict through team negotiation. Understand the communication process. Eliminate barriers that distort the meaning of information. Recognize the basic patterns of organizational communication. Understand how to organize and run effective meetings. Master electronic forms of communication, and work within organizations' informal communication systems. This week's readings, chapters 13 and 14, chapter 13 on managing teams, and chapter 14 managing communication. Be sure to review your course syllabus and assignments for additional readings or videos. Again, this week your activities include the exams on chapters 13 and 14, as well as discussion questions 1 and 2. Questions 3 and 4 are optional for those who have attended the actual class, but are required for anyone that needs to make up a missed class or is a fully online student. Teams are a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, a set of performance goals, and an approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. Work groups or members of a work group are held accountable for individual work, but they are not responsible for the output of an entire group. So slight difference between a team and a group. Teams versus groups. The purpose of a team exists to achieve a shared team goal. A working group supports organizational goals. Accountability on a team level is individual and teamwork. Working groups, it's at an individual level. Leadership in a team is a shared leadership role. Working groups, there is a strong, clearly focused leader that manages the group. Membership tenure, teams are bounded and stable over time, whereas group membership is much more variable over time. Within teams, members of the group are engaged in discussing team procedures and tactics, whereas working groups, there's variable input from group members is solicited by the group leader. The benefits of team include costs and productivity, quality improvement, speed, and innovation. Types of teams are self-managed, parallel, project, and virtual. Make sure you understand each type. Types of teams fit well within that low to high vertical and low to high duration of team types of setups. So the low group would be a parallel team or a virtual team. The low-high commitment would be project teams. Self-managed teams would be on that high level, duration of team as well as commitment. Project teams tend to be high commitment and high duration. Parallel teams tend to be high duration but low commitment potentially. Self-managed teams are responsible for producing an entire product, component, or service. Team members need the technical skills, management skills, and interpersonal skills. Project teams work full on a specific project that has a beginning and an end. Parallel teams focus on a problem or issue that requires only part-time commitment from team members. Virtual teams interact electronically on problems that require a part-time commitment from team members. Managing team performance looks at things like stages of the team development, the roles of team leaders, the roles of team members, and behavioral dimensions. The typical stages of team development, you have this forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning process that is common to most groups. Roles of team members, expectations regarding how team members should act in given situations. Could be task facilitating, that's directions giving, information seeking, information giving, coordinating, or summarizing. Or it could be relationship building, supporting, harmonizing, tension relieving, energizing, or facilitating. The role of a team leader is to provide feedback to team members, express the shared vision of the team, and support the team members. Behavioral dimensions of effective teams include cohesiveness, norms, cooperation, interdependence, and trust. Types of interdependence include pooled interdependence, sequential interdependence, and reciprocal interdependence. Trust creation, communicate openly, share credit with others, reciprocate help from teammates, and avoid acting purely out of self-interest. Team performance problems include free riders, right? Those who hang on and don't do much, the non-conforming high performer who goes his own way, and lack of rewards for teamwork. Team management skills include conflict management. To create, there is functional conflict and potentially dysfunctional conflict. Make sure you understand the difference in those two categories, as well as the importance of negotiation skills. Conflict handling there are different styles: compromising, dominating, problem solving, avoiding, and smoothing. And there's different types of assertiveness or cooperation when you're attempting to satisfy the other party members' concerns. Negotiation. Most of us have heard of a win-win style of negotiation versus a win-lose style of negotiation. And that kind of covers the main characteristics of this chapter. Be sure, again, to go back and review the learning objectives for the chapter, look at all the key concepts, and make sure you understand them. And we're almost there. The next chapter looks at the process of communication, which involves transmitting meaningful information from one party to another through a use of shared symbols. It is successful when meaning is understood. Miscommunication is probably one of the most important problems that we face in all levels of our lives. Two forms of information include facts and feelings. The communication process. They've got a really good diagram in your text that shows noise coming in. The receiver decodes some kind of message potentially, and then the sender encodes that message, and you've got some kind of communication channel. Along the way, there's noise all over the place, and it's important to understand these concepts. So defining first encoding, right? Encoding is the process of selecting appropriate symbols such as written words, numbers, digital symbols, sounds, or body language, using those things to make a message clear, and that would be the sender's responsibility. Decoding, when the receiver translates those symbols into an understood clear message. So the better the sender is at selecting the right symbols and to communicate the message, the easier it will be for a receiver to translate that message clearly. So barriers to effective communication. Some of those things could come directly from the sender. They didn't pick the right symbols. The process of encoding wasn't clear. The channel was the wrong one for the message. Decoding, the person simply didn't understand the message being conveyed. The receiver, maybe they have certain biases and such that prevented them from hearing the whole message. Feedback, that feedback loop could create problems. Not getting the feedback you need, or too much feedback and understanding what it means is difficult. Noise comes in from all angles, and it's anything that potentially interferes with a message. And then, of course, perception. We all have a different way of understanding the world around us, and it's a matter of learning to communicate and understand what other people are doing so that we're perceiving things correctly, not just from our own biases. Patterns of organizational communication include downward, upward, and horizontal, right? Downward is this typical top-down where the manager tells us what we need to know. Upward, employees are sharing and the information is going up. And then horizontal, between people of the same rung of the organizational scale. There's a good diagram showing downward communication, upward communication, and horizontal communication on a kind of an organizational chart, so it becomes clear where the information is going and who's receiving it. Information richness. Richness looks at physical presence, such as face-to-face contact, interactive channels, such as telephone or electronic media, personal static channels like memos, letters, reports, and so on, impersonal static channels, flyers, bulletins, generalized reports. Richest channels like face-to-face communication are best for non-routine, ambiguous, difficult messages, right? Sometimes it's just better to get somebody on a phone and talk to them, or get them in a room where you can talk to them. And then other channels where you're dealing with things like flyers or reports and such are best for routine, simple messages where there's very little likelihood that someone's going to misunderstand the message. Face-to-face communication is rich information content, high level of interactivity. Meetings are one of the most important forms of face-to-face communication in business. Managing productive meetings include only scheduling meetings if they're important, right? Nobody likes sitting in a meeting just to be in a meeting. You pick an appropriate place, create an agenda, establish rules for participation, follow the agenda's time limit, and leave some open time so that there's an opportunity for people to provide feedback, ask questions, and so on. And then in the meeting with a plan of action, in other words, make it clear to everybody involved, these are the things that when you leave this here, these are your action items. This is what you need to do. So when people leave, they understand. They didn't just sit there to gather and absorb the information as they once did in school, but to actually engage in the process. What is it that they need to do? Written communication includes memos, newsletters, voicemail, email, and so on. Informal communication can be things like the grapevine or management while wandering around. I just talk to people. It's a useful technique. I used it all the time. Sometimes the best meetings I had were the informal ones where I just happened to run into the right person going into the elevator and was able to have an impromptu meeting where something got accomplished. Communication skills include assertiveness, nonverbal categories, presentations, and listening. You've been doing a lot of listening this term as you've watched these videos. Assertive communication skills enables an individual to communicate in ways that meet her or his own needs while at the same time respecting the needs and rights of others. Assertiveness communication examples I'd like you to hear by 8 o'clock. I'm quite pleased with the way the situation has been resolved. I found it very important to, when I had assignment deadlines, I need this particular thing from you by, close of business on Friday. Give them a clear idea of what it is that they need to do and when they have to have it done. That way they don't, just blow it off. Dysfunctional styles of communication, passive, aggressive, passive-aggressive. Presentation skills, prepare your objectives, organize your presentation, structure your presentation into 3 parts, tailor position to the audience, and establish your credibility. Presentation skills also speak in a responsive or conversational style, use visual aids, check your technology, practice, and restate your key ideas. Nonverbal communication skills, there's sending and decoding messages with emotional content. Body movements and gestures, eye contact, touch, facial expressions, physical distance, and tone of voice are all parts of nonverbal communication. Listening skills are a fundamental skill to understand both the verbal content and the underlying feelings embedded in a message. And that kind of touches on the key components of communication. Again, make sure you review those learning objectives, make sure you understand all your key terms, look at all your videos, your images within the course, look at the good examples in the mini case studies and so on. And we're almost there, folks. One more week. Thank you for listening to this video, watching this video in Lesson 7. I hope you enjoyed it.